Hello YouTube, the Almighty himself bringing you some God tier content. I might be a little late, but I'm going to be talking about vanilla World of Warcraft. I think one thing that is very overlooked with the releasing of classic servers is why people actually want vanilla. There are many people defending classic servers as well as those who are adamant about changing vanilla. Instead of trying to force changes to the game, we should be looking back on why vanilla WoW was amazing in the first place. Hopefully this video persuades people of the latter to enjoy a change-free vanilla experience. When I was playing on both Elysium and Light's Hope, the greatest rift I saw between vanilla and Legion was the server community. Throughout the years, server community and retail began to vanish as a result of two things: looking for group / looking for raid, and player phasing. You were able to link up with other servers, giving a larger variety of players to choose from when looking for a group. You can now queue up for instances, making the hassle of starting a group disappear. However, this implementation, in my opinion, hurt the game instead of helping it. When you queue up for an instance, you end up isolating yourself from the server community. You end up getting into a group with the people you most likely will never meet again. That is a problem. Instead of cultivating friendships with players on your server, you become alienated. You have no ties or bonds with the people on your server. This then reduces the amount of fun you have because you feel like you are playing the game alone, and no one wants to play an MMORPG without friends. It ruins the experience. When you play vanilla, even if you enter the game with no external friends, you find people everywhere willing to do things with you. When I was leveling for the first time in Elysium, I found that making friends was easier compared to playing Legion. As I progressed on my journey, I noticed that the same people I was leveling with in Westfalls followed me to Stranglethorn Vale, and so on. Because of us leveling together or around the same area, most of us ended up being brought into groups to do dungeons and elite quests at the end of each zone together. You feel a sense of camaraderie. You see these people out in the world, you give them a name, and form a connection. When you form a connection to something, you have a desire to continue playing. In Legion, you have player phasing. You rarely see people in your server because you are phased in with a plethora of other servers. You form no connection or bond between players. You go about and do your own business. In vanilla, because you play with the same people, you can earn certain reputations even among your server community. Oh, so-and-so the level 60 rogue who ganks kids in South Shore. It makes the game feel alive, and that creates very vivid image when looking back upon it. That kid who is ganking you in South Shore, you'll remember him, giving him a sort of notoriety. Changing the game and implementing looking for group, or player phasing, will destroy a pillar that vanilla WoW's foundation stands on. When you are creating a game, the amount of content can make or break you. No one wants to play a game that you can max out your character stats in a couple of days. Destiny 2, it ruins the longevity of your game, and the people playing it are bored waiting for the new content. In vanilla WoW, one of the greatest parts of the game is the leveling, which ends up being a huge factor when talking about content. The character I am playing now has about 9 days played at level 56. That is a total of 216 hours of gameplay on a character that is not even level 60. Now, I know that more veteran players can do level 60 faster, but regardless, 216 hours for just a leveling experience is a heap load of content. And now that we reached level 60, we have a huge list of pre-raid best in slot gear and attunements that we need to grind just before we can even get in the Molten Core. You need to grind dungeons / 10-mans, such as Skullomance, Live Strathome, Upper Blackrock Spire, Dharmal, and some classes even Blackrock Depths. Now that you have spent, a couple days or even weeks getting all your gear from these instances, you have about half of your pre-raid best in slot. As you can see, this already has more content than most other expansions, and you haven't even stepped in the Molten Core yet. This is all content that probably is 300 hours at least of gameplay, and you still have a large portion of the game you have not experienced yet. You have Battlegrounds, World PvP, grinding raid consumables, farming gold for that epic mount, professions, doing dungeons for recipes, and even grinding for High Warlord. Now, this is a massive amount of work that you need to do, but the payoff is worth it. This is something people can log on every day and work towards. Legion, compared to past expansions, has done a much better job at releasing content with Mythic Pluses, World Quest, and Invasion Points. However, I'm going to be using the worst expansion content-wise as an example. And that expansion is Warlords of Draenor. First off, in Warlords of Draenor, World PvP is dead. You can get max PvP gear in a week. And in reality, there are only 3 raids with a total of 30 bosses, compared to Vanilla's 7 raids and 65 bosses, not even including world bosses. You'll end up never leaving your garrison, and there's no incentive to run old dungeons. The lack of content killed this expansion, and this is why it saw one of the lowest subcounts in all of Blizzard history. The reason people look fondly back on Vanilla is because they have a way to escape and immerse themselves into a game that had a large amount of content. They had things to do and people wanted to log on to play and experience the game because of it. The last point I want to talk about is something not physically in the game, but more of a byproduct of Vanilla. The thing I'm going to be talking about is how Vanilla is a great example of overcoming adversity and rewarding gameplay that follows it. Overcoming adversity is something I hold dear to my heart, because for me the best feeling in the world is conquering a difficult obstacle. It gives me a sense of pride and accomplishment, and when you play Vanilla, the leveling experience, for example, is very difficult if you come from retail WoW. You have to stop and eat every couple pulls, you need to CC mobs and take them on one at a time. The enemy can resist spells, they have a larger aggro range, and if you play melee they can parry, dodge, and miss, and so on. It is also a huge time investment as stated before. If I made a character on Legion, I can get the level 60 with heirloom gear within a day or 2 of playing easily. I one-shot mobs, can pull as many mobs as I want, and I never need to stop and eat. And when there is no challenge to something, there is also no reward. If everyone can do it, it makes the accomplishments feel worthless. When you play Vanilla, reaching level 60 is a journey, and a tough one. When you finally get level 60 for the first time in Vanilla, you feel ecstatic knowing you conquered a difficult journey. For most, you are considered among the elite now that you hit level 60, because you've conquered this difficult journey, and most people in Vanilla actually never even reach that point. Now let's talk about raids, and why Mythic raiding Legion is very difficult, but not as rewarding as Vanilla. Some of you might say, that's odd. You just said when you defeat something difficult, you are rewarded for it. You are contradicting yourself now. No. Let me explain. When you start raiding Legion, there are 3 difficulties: Normal, Heroic, and Mythic. Yes, some Mythic fights and bosses are difficult, but Normal and Heroic modes are a joke. For example, we 4-manned Normal Nathendra, 1 tank, 1 healer, 2 DPS, while we are still doing Mythic Emerald Nightmare, which is considered the highest caliber of raiding at the time. The problem with Mythic is that you have to defeat the boss several times before even entering Mythic level content. Each time you defeat these bosses, you complete part of the obstacle. Doing the same thing over and over is not as exciting as doing it for the first time. This even applies in Vanilla. Once you reach level 60 for the first time as an example, each time you complete it, you feel less of a reward. You end up getting diminishing returns on that feeling of defeating a difficult obstacle, knowing that you have already completed that task. If I have killed Nathendra 20 times on Normal and Heroic before Mythic even comes out, you feel less of a reward doing it on Mythic because you have already experienced defeating it. All you did was simply make that same boss do more damage, add a mechanic, and increase its HP. In Vanilla, when you defeat Ragnaros or Cthulhu, it feels very rewarding because there is only 1 level of difficulty, so when you kill these bosses for the first time, you feel the satisfaction of defeating it on the hardest difficulty and for the first time as well. Thank you for watching. This is my first video, so if you see anything I can improve on, leave a comment below, and hopefully we can convince people to keep Vanilla as it is. Vanilla World of Warcraft is amazing, and I really hope that everyone can see it that way, and give it a chance and play the game without making any changes to it.